Good evening. This is Kathryn Clements speaking. Thank you for taking the time to review my final presentation for Educational Psychology 7210E. Tonight I will describe two course objectives and how I have fulfilled them in the course of the semester. Next, I will reflect on some personal changes I have made and outline a future plan of action to better reflect multicultural principles in my classroom. Finally, I will identify two organizations who will aid me in putting this plan of action into practice. For my first course objective, I chose the following. Recognize prejudice and oppressive institutional structures that marginalize gifted students from culturally diverse backgrounds, such as race, class, gender, and language. I consider myself a feminist, and I tend to notice oppression and marginalization of women rather than multicultural populations. Throughout the course of this class, I was introduced to further forms of institutional racism and sexism. Some of these are extremely subtle, and some are more overt. A major form which we have discussed extensively is testing biases. Reading the YTB cases was extremely illuminating in this regard. In Chapter 10 of the Ford text, he discusses how pervasive and subtle oppression can really be. He discusses a multicultural publication he reviewed in which the testing instrument worded all questions about white fathers positively and all questions about Hispanic fathers negatively. I call this the shattered glass mirror effect. Once I began to notice these instances, I could not unnotice them. The glass had been shattered, and I could no longer go about looking at the world through a reflection of myself. I wrote extensively on one of the discussion prompts about a song I saw sung in an elementary music classroom. After further consideration, I realized the song was extremely inappropriate. It subtly reinforced negative gender stereotypes, though at first it appeared harmless. Upon further consideration, I saw that the vast amount of songs in the standard curriculum negatively reinforced gender and stereotypes for multicultural populations in one way or another. Many of the songs are African American spirituals, with allusions to grave topics like slavery. I do not mean to say that spirituals are not a valid form of music for education, but the meaning behind them must be addressed instead of ignored, in order to discontinue the reinforcement of these stereotypes. This is true for many other types of music in the standard elementary curriculum. Much of the time, simply the way a classroom is commonly organized is a form of institutional oppression. Students are expected to sit quietly and work and follow directions all day. If not, they are referred for discipline. I have come to understand that common classroom expectations are a cultural construct and are not the only valid way of doing things. For my second course objective, I chose the following. Demonstrate cultural competence while working with gifted students from diverse backgrounds. Though I believe that demonstrating cultural competence is an ongoing process and not an end game, I have tried a few techniques that have put me on the right path toward achieving this and towards incorporating it into my daily teaching. Sometimes my brightest students are also the ones with a myriad of behavior problems. These can be students from both multicultural and white populations. Their behavior problems could stem from a number of factors like boredom or lack of engagement with the material. Many of the students in the YTB cases were dealing with issues due to their boredom with the material in their classes. I tried an assignment in which I asked fourth grade students to answer a series of questions on their favorite music or musical artist. They were also required to give me details like why they liked that person or what they knew about him or her. The gifted students who are generally bored in music displayed a great deal of excitement over getting to tell me their actual opinions about music instead of just doing what was assigned to them. I then had the students draw a picture of something that represented their favorite song or artist. At first, many students were timid because their favorite music or artist would sing of subject matter that was not necessarily school appropriate. I told them to draw whatever expressed their song, even if, for example, it was a song about someone getting shot, as one song was. Of course, appropriate reminders were given that hurting people is never okay, and that we were doing this because it represented our music. This may sound shocking, but many of the multicultural gifted students genuinely let me into their lives this way, in a way that they had never done before. I was very pleased and surprised with their choices of both music and art. My first future plan is a continuation of personal growth toward acceptance. I have stated before that in addition to my school responsibilities and teaching, I am also a server. In the restaurant sphere, negative cultural stereotypes abound. Though I do not like to consider myself a racist person, I admit that being in that environment caused me to form prejudices about serving some multicultural peoples. Though I always strive to maintain professionalism at any job I do, inside I had negative thoughts from time to time. Taking this class certainly allowed me to step back and reevaluate myself. Was it possible that my prejudices were a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that the reason I was having negative interactions was because of my negative thoughts in the first place? I think it is possible, and I strive now to have positive thoughts about all the people I am in contact with on a daily basis. I believe that prejudice is something that is deeply ingrained in the collective white culture and must always be closely monitored in myself as I work toward greater acceptance. In my school practice, I plan to begin screening my materials for multicultural failings. I also plan to design more of my own course materials in order to better facilitate a multicultural musical perspective. Already in my classes, I have worked toward allowing more free rules about moving around the room to help the more active children in my classes from constantly getting in trouble. It helps them to have an outlet so they can better focus. I have also tried techniques such as the one I mentioned earlier to get the less engaged children to participate. In addition to this, I plan to start designing my lessons to target certain cultural characteristics mentioned in Chapter 1 of Ford. Some of these include things like creative storytelling, concrete and direct educational practices, artistic expression, the allowing of movement in the classroom, and group work. My organizations of choice are the following: APME, or the Association for Popular Music Education. This organization is important to me because I feel that popular music can act as a bridge between home, school, and community for students of many different backgrounds. Their website states, APME was created to advocate for popular music education and its advancement as a discipline. It provides educational opportunities for teachers and students, honors the rich history of popular music, and develops innovative ways to create, perform, and teach it. APME also serves to bring together all involved in the pursuit of teaching and making popular music. My second organization is NAME, or the National Association for Multicultural Education, because I feel I could use a support system when fighting against issues of social injustice. NAME will provide me with a community of highly educated and proactive individuals who will constantly refresh my desire to enact positive educational change in the realm of multicultural gifted education. Their website states the following. Their objectives are to provide opportunities for learning in order to advance multicultural education, equity, and social justice, to proactively reframe public debate and impact current and emerging policies in ways that advance social, political, economic, and educational equity through advocacy, position papers, policy statements, and other strategies, to provide the preeminent digital clearinghouse of resources about educational equity and social justice. Thank you for your time this evening, and have a wonderful night.